Hiya, you're alright. Does it sound familiar? Here is your radio host, Seungyeon Julia Oh. Today we'll cover this country. Hiya, you're alright. And wanna be Taiwan residents from this country. Stay tuned. What's good news in the world? You can hear hustle and bustle. Are you tossing and turning around at night nowadays? Is that because of heat wave or Olympic game? The 2024 Summer Paris Olympics, an international multi-sport event, is taking place until next week, 11th August 2024. There are a total of 206 countries represented in this Paris Olympics. I hope we all get connected in this harmony and throughout this whole world sports game. Today, Heart Togetherness'ın broadcast has reformed its program. Now it started with the news, then we'll move on to our guest. Heart Togetherness'ın is now English program that we share multicultural perspectives by inviting a guest from a different country. So, why not you? To be or not to be? That is the question by Shakespeare. Today, we have a guest from a country of a gentleman, a country of Shakespeare's, Mr. Andrew Millard from the United Kingdom.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you for having a time with us. Was it easy to find the studio?
Oh, firstly, thank you for inviting me. Yes, very easy to find these days. Navigation, just turn it on, follow it. Easy to get here.
Yeah. So this studio is a small studio, but it's nested in the inside of Jinhae train station. So, that's just for your information. Thank you for it's glad to hear that it's kind of easy to find it.
Right.
And then
no problems.
So, Mr. Millard, I introduce you from the United Kingdom. Me as a Korean national, it is often confused how to call its call name. Like everybody, a lot of people say that the UK or the Great Britain.
Right.
What's the difference?
So all of the names are correct. So the UK is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So actually the UK is made of 4 countries which are politically united. So I'm from England. England and Wales we call Britain. England, Wales and Scotland we call Great Britain. And then when you add Northern Ireland, we get the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Right, that's the official, right?
That's the official name.
Yeah, we found out that this fact about the UK. And now we can get to the point. Would you briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Andrew Millard. I'm originally from Manchester in England, but I've lived in Korea now for almost 20 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yes,
so I'm
years.
kind of now half British, half Korean.
I can say you're almost like Korean.
Almost these days.
Yes.
So I married a Korean lady from Busan, and we now have 3 children, aged 15, 12, and 11. We have a small dog. So yeah, these days, a lot of people ask me questions about the UK, about England, but to be honest, I've kind of forgotten a lot, and I think I've changed over time.
Do you travel to, do you visit your family in Britain, the UK?
Not often, no, because it's so far to travel, and with 3 children these days, it's too expensive, to be honest.
Right, I see. Okay, so we can talk more about your the Manchester, England, your hometown, and also for your personal life and the professional life.
Sure.
So later, and there are lots of international couples in Korea and South Korea. So I can imagine marriage life can be sometimes demanding because of the different culture.
Right.
And would you like to share how you did get over the cultural differences in your way, especially marriage life?
Sure. So you're right. There's a lot of international couples in Korea these days. And I think over time, as more and more foreign people move to Korea, there's only going to be more. So to be honest, we had some, not difficulties, but challenges in our marriage early on. Cultural differences. I think probably the best advice to any sort of new international couples would just be to sort of respect each other's culture and sort of to know from the very start about some of those culture differences, what you expect from each other. So as long as you go into it really fully understanding the different cultures and knowing what you want from each other, what you expect, then there should be no problems.
I see. So language barrier, there's on top of a language barrier.
Right.
So you need patience.
Right.
You need the understanding, deep understanding have, the different culture, right?
Right. So, I mean, there's lots of different layers. So there's obviously financial, cultural differences,
right.
Raising children, sort of what roles the two different people have in the household.
Right.
There's lots of different things
especially
to consider.
because of in Korea, we have Confucian country, part of a Confucian country that its culture is in there, deeply rooted in South Korea. the Korea. So I'm sure that different, that as a father, mother's role must be can be challenging. Must be we can talk about later if we have a chance later. So the next question will be. So your hometown is Manchester.
Right. Yes.
So Manchester, that just remind me of the Manchester United. Everybody knows that that's the where David Beckham, where he used to play soccer in the Manchester United. Have you met David Beckham? Or have you had a chance? Do you know any interesting story?
So I grew up in Manchester, but I grew up in South Manchester, in a town called Stockport. So actually, very close to my house, the area where I lived, is where a lot of the former footballers used to live.
Really?
So some of the other Manchester United players lived very close to me.
Oh, wow.
And I worked in a supermarket,
yeah,
a famous one in Korea also, same in the UK. When I was a high school student and when I was at university, I worked during the vacations. And so actually David Beckham and Oli Solskjaer and Rooney, they would all come and shop in the supermarket.
Really?
So
getting more interesting.
Have I met David Beckham? I guess technically yes. I never spoke to David. I did speak to his wife because his wife was looking at the time, I think, for a certain type of pasta in the supermarket.
I see.
And she came and asked me where she could find it. But I didn't know, so I told her we didn't have any.
I see. So, yeah, you met actually a lot of soccer players. I think that Korea, as you know, that we are so big fan of soccer, playing soccer. So, anybody fans out there, but David Beckham or the Manchester United, people probably love to hear that.
Right.
Yeah.
But actually, so my grandfather also played football. He was a professional footballer in the UK.
Really?
So back in the 1950s, he was very famous.
I see.
So a little bit of a connection.
Yeah. I see. Maybe I have to visit your family in the UK, maybe. So I do not know where this idea came from, but in the YouTube, there was a very big, huge hit that, have you seen the video clip, the shorts? I think that's shorts. I'm not sure exactly, but YouTube there. David Beckham and then the Victoria Beckham, they dancing as a couple. Have you watched that?
I've definitely seen a clip of them dancing together. Whether it's the same clip, I don't know, but I have seen them. Yes.
Yeah, so to me, it was really interesting that as a beautiful couple, and they dance together, just showing that what is not only about the physical appearance. I mean, as a couple in the family. What is the family is about, right? And he also mentioned about, he's saying that one of the things which is the most important thing to me, to him, is what we got, right? So that message was strongly like touching my heart. And because of the family, it's also very important that to everybody. So that's also, he had the same value. He sees the same value as a human being. And also heard also as a David couple, there was dancing couple scene that I really love to hear that. I'm a tone deaf, but here I go. That no one between, how can be wrong? Do you remember that song? How
Islands
can
in
be
the stream.
Yes.
This is what we are. Yes.
Yes. That song was really, really huge hit.
Right.
So there are even a lot of people that really follow their same couple dancing. It was very much interesting. I just wanted to bring that up because it's all related to, and it's one of my big memory in my, but in the UK and then David Beckham.
Right.
So without them, we cannot say about also the UK too. So, and then to me, having also a new guest from a country, always giving me a opportunity to open my eyes. In this regard, what is the big news in the UK lately? And would you say anything about it?
So in the UK, we have a new Prime Minister. So Keir Starmer is our new Prime Minister. This is quite a big change because this is now a shift from 14 years of Conservative Party, so more right-wing. Now Keir Starmer, he's what we call in England the Labour Party.
Labour
노동당
Party.
노동당. So he's slightly more left-wing, more democratic. So this is going to be definitely a change in politics for the UK.
I see.
It's obviously very complicated, what we're going through. But we'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be some good changes coming up in the future. What we really need is a little bit of stability. Over the past sort of 4 or 5 years, we've been through several different prime ministers. So what I'm really hoping is that Keir Starmer, whether you agree with his policies or not, hopefully he's going to bring some stability back to the UK.
I see. So I hear that the big news from you that now we can focus on, that gives me some divert perspective that see the politics about the UK. So I can have a more interest in it, and thank you for sharing that information. And besides the politics, we can talk about language also.
Right.
So England, the UK, they're talking about English expressions. Would you introduce some English expression the only UK use?
Okay, so I think as most people around the world know, as English people, we like to drink a cup of tea.
Yes.
So our tea culture is pretty strong.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite unique to the UK, that tea culture. Even though tea doesn't come from the UK, we import it. But there we go. That's from history. But so because we're so strong, we have a lot of phrases that only we would use. So for example, if you want to drink a cup of tea, you would say to someone, put the kettle on.
What's the word?
So put the kettle on.
Kettle on.
But so I'm from Manchester, we don't pronounce the T's. So we would say kettle, put the kettle on.
Right.
Literally what that means is boil some water. So the kettle is the jujonja.
Yeah, right.
So you boil water because you want to make a cup of tea.
I see. That's
So if you
how
say,
you start from.
Put the kettle on, it means I want a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Basically.
Let's have a conversation with the tea, right? Over the tea.
Or you could say, I want a cuppa.
Cuppa? Sounds
So
like
a
a cup
cuppa.
of tea.
So a cup of tea.
Yeah, that's
a cuppa.
the short words, right? Yeah. That's okay. Thanks so much.
So, to be honest, different parts of the UK have different phrases. So I'm more from the northern part of England.
I see.
So maybe if you go to the south, they wouldn't say those phrases. Slightly more northern. But interesting fact about tea. So in the UK,
I'll write down.
you can tell,
Yeah.
this is historically, it's
Yeah.
changed now.
Yeah.
You could tell if a family was rich or poor by the way they made a cup of tea. So in 100 years ago, 150 years ago, the cups used to be very
pottery, right? Very
Pottery.
expensive pottery.
very expensive pottery, or very cheap pottery. Now, the cheap pottery, if you put hot water in first, it would crack.
I like the word first.
Uh,
yeah.
So the poor people with the weak cups, the cheap cups, they would have to put milk in first. Otherwise,
It's going to be,
it would crack.
yeah, crack.
Whereas the rich people who had the expensive cups that wouldn't crack, they could put the water in first and then the milk in second.
I see.
So there's actually a big debate in the UK about how to make the right cup of tea. Should you put milk in first or the water in first?
How would you like to do?
So I
What's
usually,
your habit? I mean, I can say the habit.
to be
more.
honest,
Yeah.
I make it in a cup, which we shouldn't do. You should make it in a proper teapot.
Teapot. I see.
But I just make it in the cup. So
I
it's-
see. I see.
different
Yeah, it's
now.
nice etiquette. As you know, there's in Korea, there's a tea, also traditional tea, Korean tea too. I used to volunteer for Korean tea ceremony. But then that would be interesting to how the UK people, the tea culture.
Right.
Thank you for sharing. We have a lot of different topics we can talk about. Now going back to your story, how has 18 years of Korea life been? About 18 years now.
About 18
Wow.
years. So, diverse, I think would be
Diverse.
the best way to describe it. So I was in Seoul for 6 months, 20 years ago, as an exchange student. But to be honest, I didn't like living in Seoul. It was too big, too crowded, too many people, very 답답해요.
네, 답답해요.
So I moved to Busan 18 years ago, which I really like living in Busan and Changwon in this area. But during those 18 years, I've tried many different jobs. So I've been an English teacher in a kindergarten, English teacher in a high school. I did some English radio in Busan
English radio Busan.
a
Wow.
long time ago.
I'm nervous now. Suddenly.
I did some TV work, translation work, and then finally ended up becoming a professor
I see.
and now also working for the European Chamber of Commerce. So,
Very busy schedule, I can imagine.
so very busy, but like I said, I've done pretty much everything in Korea.
Wow.
So
Is there
yes.
anything else you want to add more as a professional career?
Anything I want to add? Not right now. Right now, I think I'm pretty happy with what I've done in the past and where I've got to now, and where I think I'm going in the future.
I
So,
see, I see. That means you're pretty much satisfied.
Right.
Yes, that's
Right now, I'm pretty happy.
wow. Okay, so it sounds very interesting. Hearing from you, when do you feel the moment you are almost like a Korean? So when do you feel the moment of you feel like almost like Korean? Do you have do you feel that moment?
So to be honest, so a lot of people will ask me questions about what is happening in the UK, like in terms of pop culture and what is popular in the UK right now. I don't know because I've lived in Korea so long.
I can share one information. So I saw one of the advertisement. The Westlife is coming to Korea. Seoul.
Westlife. Oh,
Westlife.
it's an old band.
Oh yeah, a lot of fan here,
right.
fan base here in Korea. So
But I think also, when my family, when they sometimes come and visit us in Korea, I can definitely see how they're still very English, but some of the things they do, I start to think, ooh, I don't do that anymore. So there's definitely ways that I feel I can see that I have changed by living in Korea.
I see. Yeah, 20 years, almost 20 years that that is a big,
Right.
long life, long
Right.
years of life here in Korea. I see. Okay, then similarly, what's the most different part of a culture from UK perspective, so that we can be more careful about or pay attention to the
So
people.
I think one of the biggest differences that I've noticed, and I still notice this today as well, is that Korean people, and I don't want to say too negatively, but Korean people like to compare with each other a lot. So image is very important in Korea, and comparing who has the better car, who has the nicer house or the nicer bag or clothes, whatever, is very important. In the UK, obviously there's some comparison, but it's just not the same level. So I think for me, that's been one of the maybe the hardest parts, or one of the parts that I just don't really like as
I think
much.
at that point I heard about a lot from different people.
Right.
Even for among the Korean people, we talk about it. So it's not like your idea.
Right.
It's kind of common to spot,
Right.
common to you. Sometimes you feel you are in there. But I think the reason why I thought about that, why made Korean people competing each other.
Right.
I think that is because of small country, but we have the they're not big, but some populations that but the corporate ladder, and that
Right.
always you were raised by when you're starting from your childhood, you're raised by competing each other.
Right.
A lot of, I don't blame, but it's a lot of education background.
Right.
And
I think also the
education
just
environment.
the rapid economic development of Korea has also created this very competitive
Right. We want it to be
society
everything.
as
Want it
well.
to be fast.
Right.
So fast. How can we really be fast moving forward? Then you also have to be catch up.
Right.
Keep up with that fast-paced society. That makes you push you
Right.
to moving forward fast.
Yeah.
That I think that situation, I don't know how much people are really realize it, but thank you for bringing that up, that point of view. And next question will be, how do you balance your personal and professional life?
Lately, it's been quite hard, to be honest. So I have I have one official full-time job and then another part-time job, but actually they're kind of both full-time jobs. So I work full-time at Changwon University as a professor, which keeps me very busy preparing classes, teaching classes, writing papers, doing research. But then also I work for the European Chamber of Commerce in Korea. I represent all of the Busan area, Gyeongsangnam area.
How busy your schedule is. Yes.
So very different jobs, but there's also quite a big overlap between them as well. So that's the advantage. But it means I get a lot of emails, a lot of paperwork, a lot of administration to do. So I try to have my own personal time.
Do
So
you have your personal time?
especially in Europe, generally the workday is from 9 till 6.
Yeah.
And once you get to 6 o'clock, legally we don't have to work. So we can just go home and not turn on the computer, not answer text messages.
I see.
But Korea's a little different. And like I said, I think I've become more Korean
In that way.
in that way.
In that way.
So I was actually thinking the other day,
That's the moment that you feel like almost like Korean.
so in the UK and in Europe, most people will get around 5 weeks of vacation a year, which is quite a lot.
That's illegal? That's illegal?
Oh, that's
legal.
the standard.
Standard, I see.
Whereas I think in Korea, I get maybe just a couple of weeks. But even then, I don't take all of my vacation in Korea. And I'm now used to this. So when I see other Europeans taking long vacations, I kind of think, oh, why are they not working so hard? So that's definitely one example where I see that I've changed
I see.
and become more Korean.
I see,
I
I
think.
see. Yeah, I think we need some time to be away, and visiting your
But
family.
it's important to get that rest
Yeah,
as well.
full rest that also give you the energy to
Right.
you
To
know,
recover.
Yeah,
a little
to
bit.
recover. Yes, for sure. So now, how about your daily life? What's your typical day?
So every day is different. So lots of meetings, sometimes special lectures. Like today, sometimes a radio interview. So no day is the same, which is quite interesting. But I would say during the semester, the average day would just be maybe get up in Busan. So I live in Busan. Then commute to Changwon, have a couple of classes during the day, maybe do some emails during the day, some class preparation and so on. And then in the evening, if I have time, go to the gym, do a little bit of exercise, and then maybe go home around 8 or 9 p.m. when the traffic's a little bit.
Yes, commuting from Busan to Changwon, it's not easy. So
it's not too bad if you go very early or late.
I see.
If you miss certain
in a rush hour.
Rush hour traffic, it's not too bad. But every day can get a little tiring.
I see. Yeah. I hope you find a way that, get more energized.
Right. Oh, but to be honest, I quite like driving. And that sort of 1 hour gives me a little bit of sort of my time as well.
I see.
So I try to think positively about
I see. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your personal life too. So then we can move on. Success. I see you as a successful person. And what's your definition about your own success?
So for me, so again, this would be where I think I'm still not Korean yet. So I think for Korean people, success is really financial success. If you have lots of money, then in Korea you're successful. Okay, but for me, as long as you just work hard and people recognize that you're working hard, that's for me really success. So to be honest, both of my jobs, so at National University, the pay is not great, as I'm sure many people know. My other job is freelance for a non-profit. So again, I don't do it for the money. But these days, a lot of people tell me that I have very good jobs. So even though financially they're not rewarding, people recognize the work that has gone into that. And so I'm getting more and more requests for interviews and special lectures and things like that.
I see.
So again, that's for me success. Getting that praise, people recognizing the hard work that I've done.
Yeah. So people say the 명예, right?
Right.
명예 can be also very, very good part of your success too.
Right.
Yes. I absolutely agree with your idea. I see your point, even though I'm a Korean. In my young life, I see, of course, I am a Korean national. Its success heavily relies on someone else's point of view.
Right.
How do they judge me as a success person or not? But I felt something is not right about it. Because you are seeking out your life. It's not money all the time.
Right.
Money can be helpful, that living in your life. But
of course.
ultimately, what you're looking for in the end, right? But happiness, satisfaction, hard work, right? And perseverance is about how
perseverance.
Perseverance and accomplishments. That's how I see myself as successful.
Right.
And I believe, and you also have the same idea. You have the same idea. And then that all together, I believe, naturally, that leads you to happiness.
Right.
So
actually, there's a TV program in the UK, which actually I started after I left, since I've been in Korea. It's called Rich House, Poor House. And they have a rich family, so very big house, lots of money. And then they have a family from a very poor house with really very little money. And the two families, they switch houses for 1 week.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
So they switch houses and they switch budgets.
A budget
so
too.
The poor family gets to spend lots of money and live in a nice house for a week. And the rich family has to move to the very small house and a very tight budget. And actually what that program, it's TV, so it may be edited, but generally what you see in that program is the poor families generally they're happier because they spend time together and they do things as a family and they're not motivated by money. Whereas the richer families tend to spend more time apart and generally money drives them. So I guess every family is different. For each family, for each person, what is happiness? That's a very difficult question to answer.
I see. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I see. Oh, it's very interesting TV program. That
It's a
I heard
good
about
program.
rich father and rich dad and poor dad. We heard about that, but rich house and poor house.
Rich house, poor
they
house.
actually switch it.
They switch for
wow.
a week. Yeah.
I see. How would be yourself? How find yourself in that situation? You think? Just for that's. I know it's kind of a sudden question.
So for me, I am not driven by money in any way. On the other hand, I was privileged to grow up in not a rich house, but definitely not a poor house. But also, English people, we tend to be more independent. So once I reached university, I left home and I lived in a very small house on my own for several years, paying my own bills, not relying on my parents to give me money. So I think that's also a difference between Koreans and Europeans.
I see. Yeah, as you stressed out, they emphasized how important the independent life, right? I also like that idea of, I can say later sometime that I can talk about how important the independence in your life. Thank you for sharing your idea. So what about the achievements of your personal and professional life?
So I guess personally, so I have 3 children. They're starting to grow very fast now. They're all middle school or late elementary school now. But they're all growing up to be kind children.
I see.
Maybe they could study a bit harder. That would be nice. But no, as long as my children are healthy and happy and good, kind children, I think that's really all we need as parents.
So kindness, what you emphasize about again.
And respect.
The respect. Yes, thank you so much. Personal life. And how about the professional life?
So becoming a professor, especially at Changwon, was for me a big achievement because I'm at the same level as the Korean professors. Whereas in a lot of universities, there's a sort of, not discrimination, that's the wrong word, but there's a difference between the Koreans and the foreign professors.
Right.
So I came to Changwon as an equal, was head of international affairs for just over a year, so quite a lot of responsibility.
I see.
And then also now the European Chamber of Commerce, things are going very well there, and I think the chapter down here in Busan is starting to develop.
Yeah, so just speaking about your professional achievement, what you just mentioned, I'm just curious. I mean, not only me, that our audience who's listening might be interesting about your roles in both Changwon National University and Busan as a Busan representative at the European Chamber of Commerce in Korea. Would you elaborate? Would you explain a little bit more about it?
So at the university, so right now, I'm just a professor of international relations. So I'm no longer the dean of international affairs, which is fine. So as a professor, I'm teaching undergraduate courses, occasionally graduate courses, but this semester just undergraduate. I really enjoy teaching university students, especially exchange students. Because I teach politics and international relations, if we can get a more diverse group of international students, I think it really helps to develop broader perspectives.
I see.
So that's very interesting. At the European Chamber, what I'm trying to do right now is really promote the whole Busan and Gyeongsangnam-do region to attract more foreign investment.
I see.
Because I think really this region has everything to offer. Just not enough businesses outside of Korea know about this region yet.
Right. So the lot of different countries have here in Korea that Chamber of Commerce. You might heard about Chamber of Commerce, right? But there's European Chamber of Commerce and English Chamber of Commerce.
There's a British chamber.
British. Sorry about that.
In Seoul, yes.
British Chamber of Commerce in Seoul, not in Busan. Then.
So they have a representative in Busan, but to be honest, there's not many British companies based in Busan, so they don't need an office down here.
I see. Thank you so much for sharing that information. So move on to next question is, can you share your mentors whose influence your life?
So I think one, maybe a little corny. My father was a good mentor. One of those people who could do everything and do everything well, but always working very hard. Excuse me. So definitely my father was a big mentor growing up. But I think more recently, my former head of the European Chamber, who's now moved to a different position, he was also very supportive of me. So offering a lot of advice, support. So yeah, he's been very good. And also he himself works very, very hard.
I see.
And I think that's very important. So for me, again, sort of going back to success, you kind of create your own success. Success, a big part of it is luck. But you have to work very hard to create these different opportunities, to meet more people.
I see.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, so I think he was really one of those people who really
shape you up, right?
pushed me and encouraged me.
I see.
Yes.
I see. Thank you for sharing. And then, how can you maintain healthy work and life balance?
So I have a lot of work. I try not to get stressed. So it's easier said than done. But what I try to do is, if some issues arise, I know some people just get very stressed very quickly. I try to think about it and consider different perspectives, not come up with an answer straight away.
I see. Yeah, you can drink water. So to me, I also think about the importance of communication. So communication, that before you burst out your anger. So me personally, I'm working on the more understanding of others.
Right.
So that communication, how you say stuff first, that can be also provoke.
Right. So communication also very important. And what I try to do is, so because of my work, I have to communicate a lot by email.
Right.
And sometimes the way we write things and the way people read them, there can be a little bit of a difference in the style. So I try to always be very careful as well, the way I communicate.
So you speak Korean and like English, right?
Yes.
So when you write email, it's English or Korean? That's all my starting question.
It depends who I'm emailing with.
I see.
With the European Chamber, mostly it's in English. Excuse me. So with the European Chamber, mostly I email in English. At university, a lot is in Korean because most of the professors are Korean and everything comes in Korean. So it depends.
Okay, depends. I see. What is the most valuable lesson you learned then? Valuable lesson?
Just to work hard.
Work hard.
Not expect people to give you anything. So as I mentioned just before, I think you really make your own luck. So if you want something, and this is something I try to teach my children, that you have to work for it. You shouldn't just expect people to give you something.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, and especially for the younger generation to understand.
I see. I have a same idea like you. I totally agree with you. But I think it's because of the maybe the age, probably similar because the certain years of life that I went through and you and I also went through, and probably lots of out there audience might agree and nodding about what we said. Thank you for sharing information again. And then we're almost towards the end of our interview. But is there anything you hope or comment for, especially here at Changwon people, as a Changwon citizen?
So I think just that. So Changwon is still quite rural. 다 걸렸어요.
다 걸렸어요.
간지.
우리 편.
So for Changwon, I think because it's still a little bit more outside of the bigger cities in Korea, what we call jibang in Korean, I think it's not quite as socially developed as other areas like Seoul. But I think over the next few years, we're going to see quite a lot of development in Changwon. We're going to see a lot more foreign people moving into this area. So I think just as multiculturalism diversifies, I think we're going to see some big changes in Changwon.
I see. So multicultural community, that's going to be requires mutual understanding.
Right.
That's what I like to say. As Professor Millard and I just talked about right before the interview, we talk about mutual understanding is important based on and stem from having an interest each other. So we can share. And we can skip that part. Lots of people are having a difficulty learning Korean. Korean. I wanted to share with you your Korean talents with people because I know he's so good at it. You're so good at it. Do you have any secret of learning Korean that would be helpful for listeners?
So to be honest, this is a lot of my students ask me how they can learn English. Any sort of bebop for learning English. To be honest, there's no secret or special answer.
No shortcut.
There's no shortcut. It takes time.
It takes time.
So what I always tell my students is they are Koreans, but they're still learning Korean.
Yes, right.
So even though they were born here and have lived here their whole lives, there's still vocabulary they don't know. There's still grammar they don't know. So it takes time. So for me, I've been here now for 20 years. So my Korean, it's still not great.
But that's, as far as I know, your Korean level is enough to deliver speech, enough to give a lecture. That's amazing. That's advanced level, I can say.
But definitely, it just takes time.
Takes time.
I think that's the only
the way that
you can do it. Yeah, to be honest.
So investing your time in the learning vocabulary, learning words, right? Keep practicing. That's the basic. That can be basic, can be everything, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you. And then the next question will be, where is this radio program can get better? I really wanted to know. And how do you feel about this community radio program?
So, like I just said before, I think over the next few years, we're going to see more multiculturalism in Korea as more foreign people, more diverse groups come to Korea. So very interesting that you have me on today, that we're speaking purely in English. So that's great. So I hope that over the next few months, few years, you can get lots of different people from different backgrounds giving their perspectives on different issues. I think it would be great.
Yeah, thank you for your input. Your idea. Thank you so much. Today we met Mr. Andrew Millard from the United Kingdom. Now we learn about his life, language, and ECK and success and more. by writer William Arthur Ward. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The realist adjusts the sails. Among those people, what types of people are you now, or do you want to be? So everyone, we can think about that, and everyone, see you next time.